Hi, I'm Molly.
And I'm Jamie, and this is our From the Pasture with Hired Hand podcast. As the owners of Hired Hand website software, we've been developing websites and creating internet marketing strategies for livestock breeders for the past 10 years.
The majority of our customers are involved in the breeding of registered animals, such as Texas Longhorns, Highland cattle, horses, and white-tailed deer, where the pedigrees are very important. The From the Pasture with Hired Hand podcast examines many of the differences in raising pedigreed livestock for maximum profit. Join us and learn what we're covering today.
Today I'm joined with Humberto Nobre of H Ranch in Pontalina, Goiás, Brazil. Thank you for joining me, Humberto.
Thanks for having us. It's nice to meet you.
You as well. Hopefully I pronounced everything correctly there.
That's perfect.
Well, why don't you start by telling our listeners a little bit about yourself and your Longhorn program?
Well, my name is Humberto Nobre. I am from Brazil. I was born in the state of São Paulo, and I have lived in the state of Minas Gerais, where I graduated from vet school. And after graduation, I moved to U.S. to specialize in some large animal fields. And life happened, and I was supposed to stay in the U.S. for about a year, and I ended up staying for almost 8 years. I met my wife, Lauren. She's also veterinarian. We met in Auburn, Alabama. But I lived in Texas, Wisconsin, Kentucky, New York, kind of been all over the place during those 8 years. And the H Ranch started when we decided to come back to Brazil. Well, I was coming back and Lauren was coming for the first time, and to the family ranch. I'm a sixth generation rancher, I could say that, but it was time to come back home after all that time that was gone. So one of the things that we did, we had a little bit of a dairy herd. We also had commercial beef cows, a little bit of crops, but truly the Longhorn was the passion. So that's why we started. I saw the opportunity and we took it. We started working slowly, and little bit by little bit we kind of built our program, and now we're one of the main breeders here in Brazil.
So a couple of questions from your answer there. Is being a sixth generation rancher in Brazil common, or is that kind of an extraordinary thing to have a ranch handed down for that long?
Yeah, well, it is not that common, not anymore. Kind of keeping family in the things that we do related to ranching. I think as the generations passes, it's harder and harder to keep people, the family, in this business. We know it's not an easy job. You need to be there every day. There's no excuses. There's no holidays. There's no vacation. So I think that's where it came to. A lot of people, they choose to do other kind of work where they can have their weekends off and get a vacation and travel, and that makes the most difficult. But we love what we do. I plan on doing it for the rest of my life.
So my other question is, you mentioned that Longhorns are kind of the heart of the ranch now. Where in your travels in the United States, or when did you fall in love with them and know that that's something that you wanted to raise?
Well, since my childhood, just watching the Western movies here in Brazil from U.S., the passion started growing. Those exotic animals, I think they're just beautiful. It's a unique kind of breed, and not just because of they're hardy but they're unique. You never know what you're going to get from a cross, and I think that's the most exciting part. It's like breeding a horse. We have some quarter horses at the ranch as well. You kind of expect a color from one cross, and you get a different color, and like, oh man, how did that happen? And it's the same with the Longhorns. And on top of color, you also have horn shapes and sizes and all of it that comes on top of it. And I just think it's fascinating. It's a beautiful breed. They're hardy. They're good. They have a great maternal instinct. It's just something that I never thought I would have, or never had the opportunity to have, as a kid being in Brazil. And after the years that I spent in U.S. working with the breed, getting to know breeders and the industry a little better, after we got back, we moved back to Brazil in October of 19. And as soon as I got back here, I started doing some projects, and we got the breed recognized by the Brazilian government. And after that first step, we were actually able to start importing semen, embryos, and live animals. So we got the breed recognized in 2019, which is not that long ago. It's only 5 years ago. In 2020, we put a group of passionates for the Longhorn breed together, and we founded the association, the Abralho. It stands for the Brazilian Texas Longhorn Association. And in 2021, the way we got it set up, we had 4 veterinarians that became inspectors of the breed. So we actually, like Longhorn breed did in the past, here we go out and we inspect the herds. We look at the animals to see if they fit into the breed characteristics, and if they do, they get a certification paper. We measure horns, we get weights, we document their color, their numbers, their tags, everything, like it was used to be done in U.S. a while ago. And that's how it started growing. It started very small. It started just with a handful of breeders. Now we have our association has about 65 members in a course of 4 years. So we kind of like that. It's growing fast.
So for those listeners who might not know, tell us a little bit about the process of getting, Longhorns or semen or embryos from the United States to Brazil, and then you mentioned a little bit about the registration process and the traits that you're going for, but was it a long battle to kind of, get them recognized and then be able to get them imported?
It is. It's a lot of paperwork. It's a lot of time consuming. And you kind of need to knock at many doors, and some of them might listen to you. But luckily, we had a good group to start with. And it's always complicated, but we made it through. So live animals, it's a little more complicated because you're dealing with a live animal. So they could be healthy today and something else could happen tomorrow. And then it's a different ballgame. They need to go through quarantine. There's a battery of tests that you need to do. They need to pass them all. You need to do DNA profiles. You need to do parent verifications. Have all the registration papers corrected. Everything needs to be by the books. Otherwise, you won't get it done. Semen, all the bulls, they need to be certified to export to Brazil. So you need to send the bulls to a sire center, a sire facility for semen collection. And they will also run tests during the quarantine period for the bulls to be negative to disease that can be transmitted by semen. And the embryos on the same page as the semen, but not only the bull, but also the dams also need to go through quarantine and testing. And since embryos, they're not so much of a good results when you kind of collect and go through the process, we stick more to semen and live animals. It's going well. First semen import was done in 2022. We did 3 shipments of semen of bulls that were able to come to Brazil. And the first live animal import was done last year, 2023.
So you were working on that from essentially 2019 till just last year. So you had to be a very patient person for that process.
Yes. We thought many times, we thought about giving up, but at the end we're like, no, we have to get it done. We need to do this. So we just persisted and waited, talking to people. The live animal import process, from the time that we started, I was working on this with Mr. Kevin Bryan and Joe Darling, and it took us almost 2 full years to get, by the time that we started selecting cattle, finding what paperwork we needed to do, finding a quarantine area, a veterinarian that would sign all the papers, you know, and get through the whole process to the point where it got to Brazil. It took about 2 years.
Do you think that that process will go any faster moving forward? Like, will you be able now to just kind of continue with that, or will the next batch also take that long?
I think we're already working on the second batch, and things are working much faster, luckily this time. But it's like I said, we're working with live animals. Sometimes things happen, you need to scratch one animal and replace with a new one. Things like that happen when we expect it to happen. So we try to play as much safe as we can be, per se, having spare animals in quarantine, during time being. If something happens to one animal, we already have a second animal or a third animal to replace that one. Just because, it's a lot of time and money involved in all of this. By the time we get an animal down here, its price went up 5, 6, 7 times. So it's not cheap. It's not fast, and it's not easy. So we try to cover all of our bases.
Do you sometimes feel like you're the only one who doesn't have it all figured out? Rural life can be isolating, but it doesn't have to be.
Welcome to Ag's Most Okayest Farm Girls, the podcast for women who are craving connection, laughter, solidarity, camaraderie, and just overall encouragement in your everyday life and dreams.
Each week, your hosts, Annalise, that's me, and Courtney will cover topics such as farm life, mom life, making money online, side hustles, hobbies, sharing on social media, jobs off the farm, and so much more.
Us rural gals need to stick together, so saddle up for some fun, real, and unsolicited advice and stories from our everyday farm lives.
Grab a drink. We're Ag's Most Okayest Farm Girls, and we're here to help. Listen wherever you find podcasts.
Hidden Springs Ranch, located in central North Carolina, is committed to registered Texas Longhorns. From our high-end breeding stock down to our delicious Longhorn beef sticks, check us out at hslonghorns.com or on Instagram at Hidden Springs Ranch. Hidden Springs Ranch, where they're bred to turn heads.
So what would your advice be if there are breeders here in the United States that would like to start, helping you with your program or being involved? What advice do you have? What sort of process would they have to look at going through?
Well, we have some basic requirements, and those would be the animals, all the animals. So when we talk about importing animals, we need dam, sire, and the offsprings to be registered, either with ITLA or TLBAA, and they need to be PV. Once that's done, then we'll start our sanitary side of things, disease control, disease testing. And the main concern in U.S. right now for animals that are coming from U.S. to Brazil is the blue tongue. The blue tongue virus, it's a disease that doesn't really show signs in cattle, but it can be very dangerous for sheep. So that's one of the main diseases that is kind of where we stumble into. Because since they don't show a lot of symptoms in cattle, when you're selecting the animal, you might select an animal that is positive for that, and once you take the quarantine, it's not going to pass the test. So that's the main concern. That would be the blue tongue test. After that, it's just regular testing. You test for brucellosis, tuberculosis. You vaccine the animals for blackleg, for anthrax. There's a series of tests that you run. You do a clinical physical exam, just make sure the animal is healthy, check for parasites, ticks, all of it. You just need to keep the animal in a good quarantine facility and have good professionals working with you to make sure to try to get everything done correctly.
So on your website, you mentioned that the crosses between the Brazilian and the American bloodlines are showing great results. Talk to me a little bit about that. What are the results that you're seeing? What are the traits that you're bringing over from the American cattle to balance out those of the traditionally Brazilian ones?
Okay, so when we talk about the Brazilian Texas Longhorns, the thing that I can relate to, I'll just tell a little bit of our background down here so you can understand what we're dealing with. We know that the Texas Longhorn is an American breed, and its origin was from Pasture's breeds that originated from Portugal and Spain during colonization time. So, hundreds of years ago. And, due to natural selection, they just thrived. The animals that we have now, it's a result from what happened in the past, and just the strong ones survived. Down here in Brazil, we had the same group of breeds from Portugal and Spain coming to South America, Central and South America. The difference between the animals, the bovine cattle, is not natural from the Americas. It came from all the other continents. So when they came to North America and South America, there was only a 50-year difference in time between both first shipments of cattle. So when we talk about history of cattle in the Americas, North America and South America, it's very similar. Overall, after 500 years, 50 years in the beginning being apart, it's not that big of a difference. So the origins were the same cattle that were brought to North America and South America. The difference is in the United States, when the Texas Longhorn breed was created, y'all unified that type of cattle across the country. And here in Brazil, we had that same type of cattle, but instead being unified, people were split up in different regions and they didn't really communicate to each other. So down here in Brazil, we have 7 different types of breeds, and they're all Criollo breeds. Criollo is just a mixture. It's a breed that is a mixture of other breeds. And people funded their own breeds depending on the region that they were. So in the south of Brazil, we have the Franqueiro, which is one of the Criollo breeds. One state above, it was funded a second breed with the same type, same characteristics as the Texas Longhorns. And it's called Criollo Lagiano, for example. Then in the third state, we had a different breed that was called Junqueira. In another state, we had Curraleiro Pé Duro, Pantaneiro. So there was a group of breeds here in Brazil that were formed, that originated from that same group of breeds that came into South America and North America. And what we're using here, we explained that to the ITLA when we first started contacting them to build a building up program to achieve the purebred category for registration. And we showed them pictures of our Criollo breeds, and they're like, well, it's just like the cows that we had back in the 70s and 80s. And it truly is, The only difference, if you compare the Brazilian Texas Longhorn or the Brazilian Longhorn breeds to what now the Texas Longhorn breed is, it's just a difference maybe in the size of horns or the size of an animal or color pattern, but they're all Boss Taurus breeds, and they originated from one group of cattle. So once we got that approved by ITLA also recognized us as an affiliate. So we got that approved where when you get a Brazilian cow that doesn't have any registrations, it's not on the books, but she passes an inspection for breed patterns, she's called a PA cow, which stands for Puro por Avaliação, which means she's a pure animal by inspection. She passed the inspection and she fits the category for Texas Longhorn. That would be the base herd. For us to evolve the degree of pureness, you can only use purebred bulls from United States. So either semen or embryos that were brought and were born here, or live animals. And in 3 generations from that base herd, you get your purebred down here. So always considering purebred bulls as the sires in 3 generations, starting with that Brazilian cow, you get your purebred status down here.
So you mentioned there are about 65 members to your new registry. Out of those 65 members, are they each kind of doing a similar process as you, or are you kind of overseeing it and letting them know when there's animals coming over available, or how is that working to make it more widespread?
So I'm part of the board of directors. I'm a vice president, and I'm also an inspector. So I'm that front line, I'm talking to breeders every day, all day. They call me if they have questions. We discuss projects and plans for what each breeder wants to do. Some breeders wants to be small, some breeders wants to grow, and they have different opinions on whether they like more horn or if they like bigger animals or a color pattern specifically, So that's what I try to do. I try to guide them as best as I can, showing them the options and what could be done with the genetics that we have here or what we could have here. And we go out to their ranches. We study what they want. We study their animals. We analyze the whole process, and then we try to do the crossing, kind of trying to help the breeder to achieve what he wants the best.
But no matter what, that breeder has to be patient enough for that 3-generation process, right?
Well, yes, it would take about 10 years if everything goes okay for that breeder to start from a base herd animal to a purebred. The other option would be to bring U.S. Animals to Brazil, but then you're going to have a financial, let's say not a problem, but you're going to have to invest a lot more in the program. So a lot of people don't want to invest money. A lot of people don't have a budget. They say, I just want to have purebred animals. I want to have a herd of 10 purebred animals. Get it to me. Get it for me. It's like, okay, well, it's going to cost this amount of money, and we'll probably have that in about a year or two. So you just need to evaluate what each breeder wants, what each client likes, and you kind of try to serve them as best as you can.
What are some of the most popular questions that you get asked by those breeders when you're having those initial phone calls or making those ranch visits?
I guess everyone here wants to know what the market wants, and if it is an option for financial investment. I think that's the biggest question that I get. They want to know how much money they're going to have to put to starting the business and if they're going to get money back. Unfortunately, down here, everything ag related, it's not cheap. And somehow you kind of need to get some money back, to help with expenses, or if you get everything paid for with its own income, it's even better. It'll be like that everywhere in the world, but here in Brazil, it's a little more harder to just have a hobby just to have it, So I think that's number one. It's how they can have it and if they're going to get money back. Right now, the market is hot. We don't have a lot of animals, and we have too many people wanting to buy animals, so the prices are pretty good. We already have had 4 official sales that we try to do once a year. So all the members, they put in the sale whatever they have available to go to the sale, and that's how we promote the breed. We do 1, maybe 2 sales a year, and now we're starting to do kind of a fair deal We take animals to show them. We don't have competition right now for horns or judging, but we're trying to promote the breed, taking the animals to some fairs in some states. Last week I participated in one. I took 7 of my animals, and the biggest question was, what breed is that? And then we explained to them it's an American breed, a Texas Longhorn, and they're like, oh, I've seen it on TV. So it's pretty fun.
The sales that you're having, do they function mostly like the traditional consignment sales that we also have here?
We do, but due to the breeders being, they're all spread out throughout Brazil. And Brazil is a big country. It's almost as big as the United States. We haven't been able to gather all of the breeders and the animals in one place to make the sale. So all of our sales so far, they have been online.
And do you feel like that takes a little bit for folks to catch on and trust that, or has it been a pretty easy process to get everyone involved that way?
No, it's been an easy process because people are used to online sales here for commercial cattle or other breeds or even horses, But I do think it will add up a lot once we start doing live sales.
Hey, if you love From the Pasture with Hired Hand, why not go check out my podcast, The Big Iron Podcast with Andrew Shigori, where we dive into the world of registered Texas Longhorns and what it means to be an agriculture entrepreneur in the modern world, with a little southern flair, of course. Find The Big Iron Podcast wherever you get your podcasts.
Looking for top quality Longhorns and a taste of true Texas spirit? Look no further than Cantera Cattle Company. Our passion for Longhorns shines at Old Gringo Ranch, where tradition meets excellence. Visit us online at CanteraCattleCompany.com and follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok for the latest updates and ranch life fun. Ready to experience it yourself? Schedule your visit by emailing CanteraCattle@gmail.com. Remember, God is great, Longhorns are good, and life is crazy.
Love what you're hearing? Be sure to check out our Pickup Truck Confessions. It's a video series where we hop in the truck or rental car and interview a variety of breeders about what drives their passion for their livestock, how they got started in the breed of their choice, marketing tips, and more. And now, back to the podcast.
Well, what other challenges do you feel like you all are facing being, breeders in Brazil versus breeders in the United States, whether it's related to maybe marketing and advertising or, registrations? Just what are some challenges and differences that you see?
I believe our main difference is getting people to understand that this is not a common breed. We're not getting into this, first of all, for money. We're getting into this because we're passionate about the breed. And a lot of people ask, oh, but it's hard to handle. You need to have a trailer. You need to have a specific chute for that. But us who are in the business, we don't mind. It's a must-have, But it's not difficult to have. You just adapt and you learn how to work with them. Besides that, the more we think we're marketing the breed, the more we know we need to upgrade our game. Every day, every week, every month that passes, we get more people saying, oh, I didn't know y'all had an association down here. I didn't know you were bringing U.S. animals down here. So it's just a big country, and it's hard to keep up with the news, We try hard. We have a marketing team that does all the marketing for us. They added videos and promotional videos, but we're growing. It's a slow process. We knew it would take years, but so far we have been achieving all the goals per year that we go year by year.
Well, I know we follow a few of your social media accounts here. I believe it's your ranch and then also the association. And I mean, you guys are always putting information out there, whether it be graphics or helpful videos or, just general information about your events. So folks are definitely seeing it.
Yes, no, we're getting good reviews. But like I said, you think you have all the areas covered, and you tomorrow I'll get a message. Hey, I heard that you're working with this. Like, yes, it's been 5 years. Like, really? So it's a challenge, but it's fun. We enjoy it. We enjoy it. We will actually have our first Texas Longhorn exhibition in the Quarter Horse National event next month.
Oh, wow. Tell
So
me a little bit about that.
that'll be probably the biggest step for the association and breed down here. So we have Quarter Horse down here in Brazil. It's as big as it is in the United States. It's throughout the country. It's the biggest breed of horse down here. It's the biggest breed that uh, has the money involved in the equine industry. You know, and we have all of the ropings and cuttings and reinings and races. And it happens 3 times a year. We have national events at this one place. It's a big fair. We'll probably have thousands of horses and thousands of people coming and going every day. You know, there'll be sales during that event. It's a 10-day event just for party horses. And this year, we were able to partner up with the Party Horse Association, and they opened up a spot for us to exhibit some of our animals. We will have 2 groups of 14 animals that will rotate throughout that event. And people they will actually see the animal in person, you know, and we have from different breeders. And so I think it goes both ways. It would be good for the breeder to show what they're doing, and it will also be good for the people to see what the breeders are doing and getting to know the animal and the breed and the association, because Abrali will be there as well.
That's awesome. Yeah, it's if you can get them in front of people and have breeders there to answer questions, I feel like that's one of the biggest, steps to take in everything.
I think it will be the biggest step that we'll be taking.
Well, let's switch gears a little bit and move back to talking about your individual breeding program. What do you hope that the next year looks like? Where do you hope that you are 5 years from now if we revisit on the podcast here?
Well, right now I got a group of animals. I have 3 categories of registered animals. I have base herd animals, I have F1s, and I have purebreds that we imported last year. It's been fun to compare what we have as base herd and the evolution that they're going through as you breed them to purebred bulls, so those F1 crosses, and comparing in the same space, in the same pasture, same pen, what they're doing with the purebred animals from US. Definitely US is ahead of us in horns. You can't even think about comparing them. But what we can see is the Brazilian breeds, they have a slower horn growth. They're not going to necessarily be small. We already have some 70 inches total horn cows in Brazil that don't have any American blood as that we know. Now, we might have had some semen back in the past, but no documents that will prove it, or you just can't track back to which bull was used. So we have 60 and 70 inches total horn cows, or 40, 50, 60 inches tip-to-tip cows here in Brazil. And what we're using, the bulls that we're using, it's of course bulls that are on top of the game in US, because those are the bulls that get taken to get collected for export. Mm-hmm. So we have some tuxedos, we have some spokesmen, Rotomax, jet black checks, daughters and sons, And that first generation of calves hitting the ground, we're already getting results in horn growth compared to their moms. They're starting to grow horns a lot faster than our purebred Brazilian Longhorns do. And we're still a little bit behind the US, but not that far. It was surprisingly fast or how much we jumped on horn growth in just one cross. So I believe by the time we achieve that purebred category here using the building up program, I think we'll be very close to what US is now, and of course we're trying to select good mamas with good conformations, with good feet, good heads, good backs, good udders, because that's the base of the Longhorn here. We want to make sure we have the best that we can get to achieve the goal that we want. We want animals with carcass. When I say carcass, is a good weight, a good frame, good size framed animal. We want strong top lines. We want clean animals, and just what you would say it'd be a perfect Texas Longhorn. You want the breed standard. You don't want the horns that are too thick. We're making sure we don't overdo on our horn thickness here. We're trying to always cross bulls to maintain that thickness of the traditional Longhorns. Tip to tip is not necessarily our goal. We just want to have a complete animal. An animal that is beautiful, that will thrive in the pasture, that is fertile, that will do okay on regardless of what you feed it, and have the exotic beauty in color and horns. That's our ultimate goal. It's have a complete animal to serve either as a pasture ornament or a production animal.
And how many head do you have right now?
Oh, probably we had throughout, since when we started, we probably have had 50 to 60 heads coming or staying in our place. Right now our herd is at 32 heads. So already start with some base cows, some PA cows, and already collected some embryos or bred them and retained some of the females and gave somebody else the opportunity to start the program as well.
That's what I was just going to ask is, do you kind of have a number in your head that you hope to be at in a few years with the purebreds where you can kind of pass on some of those others, to breeders who are in the situation that you were now or a couple of years ago?
Yeah, well, you mentioned where do I see myself in 5 years. Mm-hmm. I'd like to have a herd of about 30 mama cows, all purebreds, both from U.S. origins and Brazil origins. That's my goal for now. We'll see what happens later. It's addicting, so we'll see where it take me. I always think it's better to have quality over quantity. That's my personal belief. But once you start growing, it's hard to keep numbers down. And of course, we try to give everyone a fair chance to start. So when we do sell animals, we sell our average 2 top-end animals. We don't sell lower-end animals.
Is there a market there for the animals that are more the bottom end that you need to not have continue on in the purebred program?
Not in the industry. The market will be for meat production or something like that, mm-hmm. like they used to be before we started Longhorn here. So it stays the same, or it's either you go back to what it was, or you get in business and get better and have good Longhorn.
So I feel like your experience and background as a vet probably will play into this answer a little bit. But if you had to maybe pick an all-time favorite cow and bull, or describe just the build or the coloring or the horn side of your ideal Longhorn cow and bull, how would you do that? What would it be?
Well, it's hard to pick just one animal, but I had the chance of seeing Horseshoe Journey in person, and to me, she was the most iconic cow of the breed. She stands out in conformation, in color, and definitely in horns. To me, if I could have a handful of journeys in my herd, I think everyone would, but that would be my ultimate goal, you know.
I think there's a lot of folks that would agree with that answer.
Yeah. I've known Mr. Jimmy Jones, and I had good times with him. Hopefully, I'll see him in the near future again. I've learned a lot from him, and he is one of the breeders that I look up to, you know.
What about a bull? Do you have any animals that come to mind for an ideal bull?
Bulls, I think bulls will have more than one, you know, because I see the bulls as tools. So, of course, there are bulls that are very close to be a complete animal. I'm not going to say there is one bull that is complete, otherwise we'll stop selecting them. We'll think that we achieved the best, and there's always room to improvement. But I do believe that a bull needs to weigh over 1900 pounds and have a good conformation. You know, he needs to be able to run up and down the field and do his job as a bull. And if you go to color, I guess it depends your personal opinion. I do like the black and whites per se. So there's some black and white bulls in the industry that I really like. The Gruya color also, it kind of gets my attention. That silver, darker, silver gray color, I think it's pretty cool. And I try to stay away of bulls that have really thick horns. You know, I try to lean more towards the traditional longhorn look. Of course, we know that a 100 inches bull can't have pencil thin horns because they'll just break, but I think everything needs a balance, you know.
Well, what haven't I asked you yet that you feel like it's important to get the word out about, whether it be about your individual program or about just, breeders in Brazil and what you would like, breeders in the United States to know?
Our doors are open for breeders from U.S. to come down here. Myself or ranch, we have open doors for anyone that would like to come and see and check out the program. And also the association, and I'm sure all the other breeders would be very happy to receive visitors. I know it's a bit of a ways to come here, but I think it would definitely help. You know, it would make our program a little stronger once we start having people coming to Brazil and actually looking at the animals and agreeing or disagreeing with what we're doing, you know. And there's always room to learn and improve, like I've said before. And we like different opinions. You know, if people in US like to come here, or if they would like to see pictures or videos of animals down here, just let us know and we can make something happen. You know, I gave a speech. It was 2022 at the ITLA. I think it was pretty good. A lot of people came and asked what was going on, and I showed pictures of our base herd animals and the build-up programs and some of the ranches. I think that was nice. That was fun. Maybe doing that again, or getting a group of breeders to Brazil and we can do a little tour around. And we're actually trying to it was supposed to be last year, but things didn't really work out. But at the end of this year, maybe we'll put a group of Brazilian breeders and we'll go to US and maybe go to ITLA and Horn Showcase in October. So that's another project that we're working on as well.
Well, those all sound awesome for sure. Hopefully you get some folks take you up on a little trip down to Brazil to see your animals, but also, just the country itself. So
yeah. Well, it's a big country. There are lots to see.
Well, thank you so much for taking the time to join me today. I really appreciate it. And we'll link your website as well as the associations in the show notes so folks can go check everything out that way too.
Yeah, if anyone has any questions, just feel free to reach me out. If it's about the herd down here, or if it's about sending animals to Brazil or semen or anything, I'm here to try to help as best as I can. And I actually do some connections between Brazilians and Americans every now and then when people want specific animals or lineages. They'll come to me and say, hey, I want this, I want that, and I try to guide them and lead them to where I know maybe would fit them best.
Nice. Well, I hope you get some phone calls.
Thank you. I appreciate it. It was nice talking to you, and thanks for having us.
You too. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.